comes first. You're watching WECT News.
Towns struggling to hire employees or first responders is nothing new.
But one beach town is taking new steps to not only recruit new workers, but hold on to the ones they already have. WECT's Mackenzie Bruns talking with town leaders in Carolina Beach today. Mackenzie, they tell you neighboring towns and cities have made it tough to find and keep employees.
Yeah, that's right, Fran. That's why they are moving forward with some changes to pay and benefits to hopefully remain competitive with their neighbors. It's another beautiful day in Carolina Beach, but town leaders say there could be dark clouds ahead, and they aren't talking about winter weather.
Retention's always a problem in any business or any municipality, especially in a very competitive market like we have in New Hanover County.
The town is trying to hold on to employees. Right now, there are several vacancies, from first responders to other town positions. And town manager Bruce Oakley says hearing from employees have been key to pushing for change.
We have heard from employees that some other governments offer a higher 401k match. We've also heard about other communities offering coverage for their family and spouses.
Along with the need to boost benefits, Town Council just voted for double merit raises from 2% to 4%. But with around 130 employees, Oakley admits there are financial constraints.
Being a smaller town compared to Wilmington, Leland, and the county, it is a little harder. We don't have the budgets they do, but we're trying everything we can.
Although the town hasn't released a total cost yet, Oakley says that Carolina Beach is in good shape financially, and leaders believe making the investment will be worth it in the long run.
We're in a competitive marketplace for employees. We have some stellar employees, and obviously we don't want those employees looking elsewhere.
And ensuring Carolina Beach continues to run smoothly for years to come. Leaders tell me over the next year, the town will continue to talk about package upgrades and improvements to health insurance. We will keep you posted if and when that happens. Mackenzie Bruns, WECT News.